All right, so I am live. I'm going to be doing a live coding session where I'm going to be cloning Wordle. Yes, I know a lot of people have done this already, but I'm going to do this live. And I'm also probably going to take a different approach than the rest of the people. And I'm doing this because I wanted to code it. And why not create content along the way, right? So there's one of two places that you could be watching this. You could be watching this on Twitch. If you're watching this on Twitch, that means you're watching me live right now. I haven't even tried to code this before, so I may have issues trying to code it. Who knows? If you're watching this on YouTube, I probably chopped this up a bit. It'll be much more fast-paced and probably a different experience in general. But what I want to say is if you're watching this on Twitch or if you're watching this on YouTube, either way, don't forget to subscribe to me on YouTube, like this video, by the way, and follow me on Twitch so you don't miss any of this content. All right, with all of that out of the way, I'm going to start by basically showing you what Wordle is. If you don't know what Wordle is, it's basically hold on, let me switch this up. Boom. It is a viral game where basically there is a 5x5 grid, and I'm not going to play a whole game, but I'll show you in just a second what it looks like. You get a 5x5 grid, and your goal is to guess the 5-letter word. There is a 5-letter word that they pick. You have 5 guesses to guess the 5-letter word. Pretty simple, right? So let's see how it works. As you can see, we have Wordle on the right, and I'm just going to start with a 5-letter word, apple. When I submit it, it shows you in yellow which letters are in the word, but not in the correct spot. It shows you in gray letters that are not in the word at all. And it shows you in green the letters that are both in the word and also in the correct spot. So A and L are in the word that I'm supposed to be guessing. However, they're not in the right spot. So I could try to guess a different word. Lasso, maybe? Sure, let's try that. Lasso. I want to see at least one green so I can kind of show you. And as you're doing this, if you notice, some of these letters down here in this keyboard are turning dark gray. That means that these are the letters you've already guessed that are not in the word. And it kind of just shows you a nice UI so that you can kind of keep up with all of the things without having to look through here. Also, you might hear a cat meowing in the distance. I might have to get her in just a second. Let's try another. I'm just going to guess a completely different word here just to try to get, okay. What? First of all, you know what? I'm just going to completely ignore that because I'm doing a live stream where I'm supposed to be coding this thing live, but that is insane. That is absolutely insane that I just guessed that randomly. Anyway, cool. So yeah, as you can see, all of these letters are in the word and in the correct spot. So I got the word correct. So what happens is you get 5 guesses. If you don't get it right, I don't actually know what happens if you don't get it right. What I could probably do, because since I'm going to be doing a clone, is go to an incognito window, because I think you can only play one game every 15 hours or something like that. So I'm just going to try until I fail just to see what the screen looks like when we get to the end. I need to see that part of it because I have never failed this game. I've really only played it 3 times and I won each time by a hair. Okay, so it tells you at the top and that's it. And then it tells you to play again. So we could probably do something a little bit more custom here. So you get the idea. That's Wordle. So that is what I'm going to be cloning. So I have 2 tabs here. I have a tab with the color palette just so that I can easily select colors. I kind of want to copy the same colors, whatever. And then I also have a GitHub file with a bunch of 5-letter words that I'm going to be using in order to, play the game, basically. So back to the main camera here. I'm going to explain something to you because I have not seen any of the other Wordle tutorials. I don't know how anybody else has approached this. I wanted to go into this fresh with my own perspective. Then I'm probably going to go watch those other videos and see how they did it. But anyway, one thing that's been on my mind while I've been thinking about this is there's a lot of words, right? So this right here, this is a 33 kilobyte file. That's not that big, but I want to be efficient with my searching algorithm, right? So the first thing that happens when you type in a word on Wordle is it checks whether or not that word exists. So if I type in a, it's going to say that is not a word that's in the dictionary. So the very first thing that happens when you try to submit a word is it's going to search through every single one of these words and determine whether or not the word that you're looking for is in there. And this isn't really that big. I mean, it's 5,757 words, but it doesn't scale well, right? Let's just say we did every single word in the dictionary. This could become very inefficient. So what I was thinking was, how could I create a search algorithm that is efficient and I don't have to worry about efficiency as part of the bottleneck to this application? And what I realized was before maybe 6 months ago or something like that, I coded something called a trie, which is a tree structure that is specifically for searching for words. So I'm going to use that in this video. I think it'll be okay. I think I have a contains method for my trie. We'll see. But I just wanted to get that out there. Like, I'm thinking about efficiency in my head. So we need to be able to search for a word efficiently. And another thing is, I don't want to just load this as an array into, I might just load this as an array, like a JavaScript variable, into the client's browser. Typically, I wouldn't want to. Again, it doesn't scale well, but for a prototype, this is perfectly fine, because otherwise what I would need to do is save this as a file and then have a server read through this. And then when it boots, it could build that trie from this file. And then, like, if we did every single word in the dictionary, the server could handle that, but browsers, it wouldn't be very good. So anyway, it could be like 4 megabytes in your RAM just to play Wordle, which is crazy. All right, so those are the things I just wanted to kind of talk about before I get started. Now I'm just gonna dig right into the code. All right, cool. So I have an HTML skeleton here, and I want to add a CSS file. So link CSS style.css. I think I called it styles.css. Yeah, styles. So fixing that. And then instead of document, I probably just call this Wordle clone, not Klein. And I need to go ahead and get this file. So I'm going to view raw and see if I can just copy the contents here. We'll give a new file here called words.js. And again, what I would do in a production application is I would just save this to a file or a database, but most likely just a plain text file on a server, probably create like a simple Express.js server that loads all of this. And then when the server boots, it would load it into a data structure called a trie in RAM. And then it would be extremely efficient when each request comes in, making sure that we're reading from this trie instead of the file directly. If you don't know what a trie is, I'm not gonna give a very big explanation as to what that is, but it's basically a tree data structure specifically for character, like word search. So I'm gonna create a constant array called words and just put them in here for the prototype. Again, would never do this in a production application. In fact, getting commas after all of these might be a doozy. So there is an approach that I can take. Boom. Good thing I know VS Code pretty well. I need to add quotes as well. So let's see, add a quote there, add a quote there. Should be good. If I scroll down to this blue, I don't see any syntax errors. It is red at the end though. What's going on here? So the end is a little wonky, but I can just fix that really quick. And there we go. Just so you all know, I got that from this repository right here, just giving credit where credit is due. Now I can go ahead and close that tab and be on my way. I'm gonna full screen this temporarily. So what I wanna do is build a grid in HTML. So let's just go ahead and get that out of the way, right? So we know that the first thing that needs to be built is going to be the 5x5 grid where the letters are gonna go in. So I'm just, I'll create, and I don't think I'm gonna make them divs for now, but some of these are gonna become inputs pretty soon. So class for this is gonna be grid. This autocomplete, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Let's do row. Let's call it row. So there's gonna be actually, I'm gonna do CSS grid for this. So there's not gonna be any rows. There's just gonna be cells. And we are gonna call that cell, class name of cell 1. There's going to be 5 times 5 is 25 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I have 25 cells in HTML inside of a grid div. Now I'm gonna hop over to my CSS and expand this. I'm going to also run this with live server. And yes, I probably am going to be doing just vanilla JavaScript for this because it is a pretty simple little application. So we have, what is it? Grid, we have cell. Okay, let's start with cell. Let's do a border of 1 pixel, solid gray, or let's do black for now, just so we can see it. Let's give it a height of 50 pixels and a width of 50 pixels. There we go. And then the grid, we're gonna do display grid. I have to remember how to do this. Okay, gap, we're gonna do 5 pixels. I think it's grid, template, columns, repeat. It's been a while since I've done CSS grid. Repeat 5, by 100 pixels. And we're going to do the same thing for rows. So instead of columns, we'll do rows. And if I save, we get this. It's pretty close, but instead of 100 pixels, we want to do 50. That was the mistake. There we go. So now we have our 5x5 grid. That looks pretty close. I should have just kept Wordle up so that I can have a reference, a visual reference. Okay, here we go. Perfect. This is exactly what I need. That is like a, so let's get the background color of this. I have this little plugin that'll let me do it. So grabbing that, the background color, that's of the body. So the background color of the body was that. And then I don't know if I can grab the color of the border here. Oh, there it is. Got it. So instead of solid black, we'll do solid 3A, 3A, 3C. And then that looks pretty good. I think that looks good. I should probably make it slightly larger. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's do 75 pixels, or let's just do 70 pixels. That's better. And then I'm going to increase the gap to 7 as well. And then the border, I'm going to make 1 pixel thicker. Let's go with 10 pixel gap. All right, that looks pretty close. We're going to just say that's good. These divs need to be inputs. So that's the first thing I need to do, is probably change all of these to inputs. So now they're inputs, right? I was worried about that. So now we have to be able to customize these inputs to look, oh, I can't play this anymore. So I should probably just, again, do a incognito window for a second. I'm in dark mode. All right, so it looks, okay, so if I try to submit that, you'll see not in word list, and the whole row shook. So that's gonna be fun because I'm not doing rows. So that's something to keep in mind, is I'm doing CSS grid. There's no concept of a row. I could do Flexbox, and then I should be able to do this shaking animation. So I think I'm gonna just, if I wanna do it the right way, I need to back up and do Flexbox. So I will do that, because I want to do it the right way. What a pain. All right, whatever, let's do it. The issue is now I'm gonna have to cut these into parent divs that will have a class of row. No, not React classes, row. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these per row. And I can get rid of all of these and just cut and paste here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now we have more of something that'll work for Flexbox. All right, so display flex, we need to do, let's do a width of 500 pixels and see what happens. Let's do row width 500 pixels. This is also gonna need to be display flex. So the row is gonna have to be flex direction column. Okay, and then the gap needs to be, what was it, 7 pixels or 10 pixels? I think it was 10 pixels is what I had on CSS grid. So I'm doing 10 pixels here. That doesn't seem right. Oh, that's because, okay, there is a clear gap between these. That's because I'm doing, oh, I need a calculator. Let's do a calculator. So what is 70 times 5? That's 350. So really this number should be 350. That's the issue. There we go. Then the gap can be 10. Or that seems a little hardcore. Let's do 5. And then same thing needs to happen here. So 350 and gap. All right. Wait, it's not the width, it's the height. And yet it works. This looks pretty good, and it's Flexbox. It seems to be doing what I needed to do. Let's get it centered on the body. Let's do display flex for the body as well. Flex. Let's align items center, justify content center, and then do a height of 100 view height. Okay, cool. There we go. All right. But now we don't, so there's certain things, right? So what they probably did, and I'm not going to copy it exactly like they did in terms of the functionality because I want to not suffer a horrible fate. If I can get the window over here, is they're probably not using inputs, but I can actually break into here and just look at their code. What are they using? Inputs. They are not using inputs. They're using divs. So they're probably just straight up using JavaScript with listeners. That is a better idea. So I'm actually going to back out of the idea of using an input. I'm thinking here because this might be, let's just do it. Well, how are they keeping track of which one is selected? Or are they not? So if I click, let me get the incognito window version open over here. So if I click anywhere in here. Let's click the third one and I type in F. Okay, so it's actually keeping track of the index for you. It makes better sense not to use inputs. Let's not use inputs. No inputs. Divs. So now we have divs. And it already looks better anyway. One thing I'm noticing is that they are not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You get 6 guesses. So technically there's 6 rows. Wait, you get 6 guesses? All right, whatever. So we need a 6th row. Boom. No, that just hurt my brain a little bit because those are columns. So I need to reverse the way that I'm doing my Flexbox really quick. There we go. Okay, that's more like it. So now when I add in an additional row, it should actually be a row, not a column. Yes. It still looks a little long, doesn't it? I just want to get the dimensions right really quick. What is this? This is, wow. Okay, well, when it shrinks, you can't tell. But I don't want to be that picky. I'm just going to go with 50 by 50 instead of 70 by 70, which means I need to bring these down to 350. I don't want to spend too much time trying to make it look exactly like it. So something doesn't seem right about that to me, but you know what? I'm backing out of this because it just doesn't seem like a square to me. It seems like a rectangle, but that's probably just an optical illusion. All right, cool. So the first thing I want to do is be able to type inside of here. I'm going to need a JavaScript file. And for now, I'm just going to put everything in one file. And I need to add an event listener that listens for the keyboard. So document.get, not get element by ID, set event listener. Or should it be window? Window.add event listener. Or can it be document? Should we? That's actually a question I don't know off the top of my head. But we're going to go with document. We're going to go ahead and pull out the event, EVT. And for now, the event listener we want to add is key down. So we want to listen for key down events. And for now, I'm going to log the event so I can just remember the exact event parameter we need. And so I need to bring the script in. I'm going to load it below the table. I don't know if we can do that. What? VS Code, what are you doing? So I just typed the letter F and we have key and we have code. So key is what I want to listen for. Const letter, can't see my keyboard over my microphone, equals evt.key. Or we could just destruct it out like this. Key equals evt. Okay, so now we have the key. The key is going to be the letter. And we're going to need an alphabet really quick. So let's do a quick alphabet. Const alphabet is equal to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. My mom would be proud. Okay, so now we have the alphabet as a string, so we can do it in include. So if alphabet dot includes key dot to lowercase, so we're gonna just lowercase the key to make sure that we're matching. I don't have to type in both lowercase and uppercase characters. If alphabet dot includes that, then we know we have a letter. Otherwise, we're just not going to do anything, right? So if I'm not going to pull the other window over, but my guess is that nothing would happen. Just thinking out loud here. What would I do next? Okay, so I need to populate. First of all, I need to know which square I'm on. So I need to be keeping track of that in some way. And I know how I would approach this. So we're going to have an array of words that we've already typed, probably. So const words submitted. Yeah, empty array. And then a let current word. I'm using let because we're going to basically build on this incrementally. How shall we do this? I'm going to put this at the very top just so I can remember this is an actual const that will never change whatsoever. Then we're going to say current word plus is equal to current word plus the letter. So key. So I'm just thinking in my head and I'm trying to keep as much verbality, is that a word, as possible. So basically if I'm on the 5th letter and I do this, it's going to try to create a string with 6 letters in it, but we want to limit this to 5. So we need another check inside of here, or we could do it in the same if check. because we don't want to do anything at all if it's already 5. So if current word dot length is already 5, let's just say is less than 5, and that. So let's see if I can put these on 2 separate lines so we can clearly see the logic that we're running through. So if the current word is less than 5, less than 5, and also it is a letter, then go ahead and increment that current word. Then if it's enter, so else if we press the enter key, which is what should probably be continuing to log the key here, then where's the, oh, just get rid of that for a minute. Enter. If key is equal to enter, then we're trying to submit. So the very first thing we need to do, there's 2 things we need to do really when we try to submit a new word. The first thing we need to do is check whether or not the length of the word is exactly 5, because we cannot try to submit a word that isn't 5 letters. What happens when we try to do that in actual Wordle? What happens? So I'm going to type in GGG instant enter, and we get not enough letters. So there's this concept of a toast that's going to pop up with messages that is basically going to explain what the issue is. And there's multiple issues that can occur. So this one is not enough letters. This one is not in word list. You get the idea. And each time there's some sort of issue with a word, this whole row shakes and you get a message at the top. I was going to say let current error message, but you know what? We don't need to do it that way. I instead am going to say if the key is equal to enter, then we're going to run some function. And that function is going to check whether or not there's errors. So check for errors. And I'll comment this out, check for errors. And then the second thing we're going to want to do, and so actually I should break this into 2 things, right? So check for length. And the second thing is going to be check word exists. Now each of these are going to handle showing a toast and adding the class that shakes it. Okay, cool. So if both of those things are true, so const is current length, or is correct length, I can't spell right now. Is correct length. Const is word. And then I can do a check here. So I'm going to make sure that, I'm going to make sure that both of these functions that I'm creating create and return variables. And we will say if is correct length, which these don't actually exist because I have them commented out for now, and is word. Then we want to submit the word. And we can start by saying words submitted dot push current word. Then we're going to reset the current word. So current word is equal to an empty string. But there's another thing we need to do, which is determine whether or not we have 6 words already. Because if this is the 6th attempt, then the game is over. So yeah. So inside of here, we need to do yet another check. And I don't like how many if, like we're so nested right now. There's so many nested if statements. I'm not a fan of that. Nobody is. But anyway, if is correct length and is word, we need to also do another if. And I might do a different pattern moving forward so that I don't have to do this nested if junk. If, what is it? Words submitted dot length is equal to 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we know this is the 6th attempt. And if it's the 6th attempt, then it's the end of the game. So I'll put this check after this and then we'll say else. So then I'll put a comment here to put a function here, like a to do that says, game over. But we need to check for a victory before we declare game over. Else, if game over, if it's a game over, we'll call game over. Otherwise, if it's not game over, we're just going to go ahead and do nothing really. Here we need to check whether or not it is a victory. We can know if it's a victory by saying chosen word. We need a chosen word, const chosen word, which will probably pick randomly from the list of words available. For now, I'm just going to put apple, hard code that. Put a comment here that says pick randomly from word list. And we can say if current word is equal to chosen word, well, here we have a victory. And this can be an else if. All right, that's pretty much the top level logic, I think. So just running through this again, just to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. When we press a key, if it's a letter, wait a minute, we don't want to wrap this because we're doing, wait, no, we do. Yes, no, the logic is correct. Okay, I have the logic correct. My brain just did a thing. But yes, this is the correct logic. Check if it's the correct length. Check if it is actually a word. And you know what? Honestly, to make this even more efficient, we should just go ahead and do the length check before we do the word check, because the word check is already going to be pretty expensive. Kind of. Since I'll be using a try, it won't be that expensive, but it's more expensive than this for sure. So if we get this far, we can at least say, let's not go any further. And because this is a step-by-step process, in other words, we are doing, it's basically a sequence of events that are happening, and I'm doing all these if checks, and we're already 3 levels in with if checks. It kind of makes me feel like I should be taking a different approach here, but for now, I'm going to do these nested ifs, just keeping in mind that I might change the way that we're running this logic here. But yeah, I want to break out of this if at any point one of these fails. So if, you know, not is correct length, then I want to break out of this in some way. But for now, we're just going to wrap it in here and say if is correct length, then we can go ahead and check for the is word. Yeah, we're pretty nested. And you can pretty much identify whether or not something is bad code by the level of nesting. Although that's not universally the case, but if I start to code and I see this level of nesting, I start thinking, I go, okay, I could probably approach this differently and just better in general. So I'm going to write a couple boilerplate functions. We're going to do victory, game over, check word exists, and check for length. I'm just going to get a couple empty functions written here. Check for length is word. What else? Victory and game over. Const victory, const game over. So now I can uncomment these just because now they're actually, these functions actually exist. They don't do anything and they don't return anything, but yeah, we have victory, game over. Okay, gonna make this look a little bit more clean because this is already getting kind of hard to read, but it's looking good thus far. Okay, so the first thing I want to do in terms of actually updating the screen is I want to be able to, I need to update the word. So when we update the word, instead of simply calling current word, where are we at? Current word equals current word plus key, we also need to update the view. So I'm going to break this out into a function that we're going to call update word. I like that. And then we're going to pass in the letter that needs to be added into the word. So we can take this and call update word instead, and we need to pass in the key, which at this point we know is a letter because we're checking whether or not it's in the alphabet. Instead of key, here it's letter. So the first thing we're doing is updating the string. So we're keeping track of that in memory, which I don't really need to do. But the second thing I need to do is actually update the view. I need more than just cells. I need to be able to identify which row or cell we're on so that I can keep track of the letters each individual one. Or I could just create a function that renders this and then, pulls this in and kind of creates a array that represents this. I'm going to try that approach first. Normally I like to see stuff on the screen by this point, but one thing at a time. So let's kind of have to think for a minute. If I type in the letter F, we have to know which square to put the F in. If I look at this, for example, if I type in the letter G, it's going to have to know that the G should go here. And then I'm going to type in H for ghost, GH. We have to know that now we need to go here. So the first check is going to be how many items are in the words list array? 1, 2, 3. Okay, well there's 3, so we're on the 4th row. All right, boom. How many letters are in the current word? 0. So we know we're on the first letter. That's how I'm going to approach it. Let's just say we have a function that figures that out for us. Yeah, why not? Const which cell. So we can basically say const row is equal to the word length, word submitted dot length, row 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 1. But we're going to go by indices. So 0, 1, 2, 3 1, 2, 3, 4, then we'd be on the 5th. So it would indeed be -1. No, 0. Give me a second. Still thinking. Let's go back to this example. In this case, would be on the 4th row. There's 3 items in. So it's the length. It is the length. It's not plus anything because 0, 1, 2, 3. The length is 3. Those map together perfectly. Excellent. The cell is equal to const cell is equal to the current word dot length. Should be the same logic, right? Let's say we're 3 letters in, A, P, P. Well, now we're on the 4th letter. The length is 1, 2, 3. So that would actually be +1. Oh no, I'm sorry, because it's index based. So 1, 2, 3, the length is 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, boom. All right, cool. Let's return an array that represents that, an XY value, thinking in 2 dimensions here. So X will be the cell and row will be the Y value. All right. So when we call which cell, we can destruct these out. Yes. Okay, so now we know which cell and which row to add the letter to. We can do that by, I think the easiest way is going to be just to do something like this, where each row has an ID. I'm just going to do this. And normally in most of my tutorials, I would do this programmatically for efficiency's sake, but this really is the easiest way because it is the template, really, if you think about it. Row 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do the same thing with the cells. Cell 0. Bunch of copying and pasting. This will be fun. Although this should not be an ID because we're going to repeat IDs. We don't want to do that. Sorry for kicking the microphone there. We want to do a data. Let's say data cell and then set that to 0. Data cell. Yeah, let's do that because you don't want IDs to repeat. And if I were to do that, the IDs would definitely repeat here. So I'm going to do the same thing with the rows too. Data row, 0. So I need to quickly, actually, I think this would be the quickest way to copy and paste. So I can run through this very quickly. Oh, yeah. Okay. So 4, 5, 3, and then I will just copy this into each of the corresponding row containers. And like I said, I went into this stream with absolutely I have not attempted this at all, as you can tell. So this is really how I would approach a project from scratch. So now I have the templating that I need in order to populate this with a letter. So let's start by grabbing the proper cell that I need. In order to do that, I need to get the proper row. So const row div is equal to document dot get elements by class name. Let's convert that to an array. So array dot from. The class name that we want is row. So now we have an array of all the rows and we want to filter this or find the row with the data set that makes sense. And I need this all to be on one line because it's going to be hard for you all to see if I don't do it that way. So right up from get all the rows, find each row. We want to find the one where the row dot data set dot, and I think we could just do this and say, what was this? Row, data set row is equal to the current index we're on, or I'm sorry, the row that we get from with cell. Boom. Hopefully that works. All right. So I'm going to try to log row div and see if we're getting the expected data. Yeah, we definitely got the correct row. So now we need the correct cell from within that row. So const, not capital locks. Const cell div is equal to, we're going to do basically the exact same thing here, but with instead of this, we're going to do cell, but instead of document.get elements by class name, we're going to pull it from row div. We're going to get all of the cells, and then for each cell, we want to check for, basically just replace cell here with each of these. Boom, boom, So now if I type, let's log this quickly, log. Actually, I really don't need to. Instead, what I should just do is go ahead and populate the letter and see it in there. So cell div dot inner HTML, or let's do inner text. Inner text is equal to the letter that we passed into this function. Yes, F. Did it work? I can't see anything. But then again, the text may be black and I can't see it. I definitely am not seeing it. What did I do wrong? So we have cell div dot inner text. So maybe let's start with HTML. Let's do inner HTML. Okay, fine. Then it looks like it worked that time. Let's save this again because we were in a weird state. Oh, it's finding the wrong one. The length, it's giving me cell 1 instead of cell 0. The length of the string that we're passing in here. Oh, you know what it is? It's because we need to do this afterwards. Okay. We need to do that afterwards. Okay. F. All right. Now it's updating correctly. So there is an F in there. We just can't see it because probably the text is white. That's why. So let's make the text, the font color, the color white, so that we should be able to see it. I definitely see it now. So the actual color we want is white. So that's good. It's a sans serif font. So font family, let's do sans serif. Uppercase, how do we do that? It's a text transform uppercase. So now we get uppercase letters only, display flex. We're going to do align items. You probably can't, yeah, you can kind of see. So align items center, justify content center. Now it's in the center, and let's up the font size quite a bit. Let's do 32 pixels. That's pretty good. And then let's make it bold. So what is it? Ooh, I keep hitting the microphone. I'm not used to this being here. Font weight, bolder. And that looks pretty close. I might try 28 pixels for the font. Nah, 32 is right. All right, cool. So what if I try, let's do this, Apple. Okay, I type in Apple, and then if I were to click submit, we should see the word victory if I log it out in victory. So if I go to the script, go to my victory function, and just type in console.log victory. Should see victory when I click enter after that. So APPLE, boom. All right, I didn't see it. So that's not quite getting there because you know what it might be, because I don't. Let's log these two. Let's log things. So what is current word and what is chosen word? APPLE, enter. Oh, it's because we're not running as word. We're not getting this far because we're not. Is word needs to return true, and so does check for length. So right now, I'm just going to return true for both of these. Now we should see check word exists is not defined, check for length. This should be check, instead of is word, this should be check word exists. Okay. APPLE, boom. Apple. And that's coming from line 58. So one of these is not defined. I'm assuming chosen word is good. Current word is not defined. So current word, it looks like we're not updating it here when we should be, right? So current word, console.log, updating current word. And then let's just log current word. So this will be the previous, oops, this should be here. That should be a comma. So this should be the previous version of it. It is definitely building out current word. And then if I click submit, which one is which? Current, APPLE, enter. Current is, okay, so the reason why that's happening is we're resetting current word here, and we should not be resetting current word there. We should be resetting current word inside of the victory function. So now we see the word victory when I click enter. Awesome. So I'm going to keep that there, but I'm going to get rid of this console.log down here. All right, so back to this. Oh, it's still updating it. It's still logging it when I type right here. I don't want that. Cool. There we go. Oh, and it knows to go to the next line. So I'm actually kind of further along than I thought in a sense. So what's next? Now that I'm this far, what's next? So the next thing is going to be determining whether or not the word that I entered in is actually a real word. Okay, so as I said at the beginning of this live stream, I, at one point, built a try. And I'm going to use that in this live stream. So what is a try? Well, I can give you a basic explanation of what a try is, but I don't want to go too deep into it. Here's what a try is. It is a data structure that makes word searching very, very simple. So let's go look at it. I have to go to my GitHub to grab this. Gonna need to make this big so I can see, and I'm gonna have to find the exact repository. Guess I should have went to my repositories. And I have a data structures, algorithms, snips. Okay, it's in here. Then if I go to data structures, try. This is what I need. I'm going to steal my own code and hop into here and paste a new file called try.js. In fact, maybe I won't do that. Instead, I will probably just put it in the same file, which I might hate myself for doing. Okay, that's why I would hate myself for doing it. Let's take a quick look at this code. Okay. So when we construct this, we're building a try. So in the constructor, it's been a while since I've looked at this. It's been at least 6 months, maybe 9 months since I built this. It's got some error logging. So we have a set end, we have an insert. So we shouldn't need that. I should have a function called build from array, I think. Get all words. No, so what we need is the contains method. The contains method is going to tell us whether or not a word that we give it is or is not in the try. But I can't remember whether or not, yes. So it does build it from scratch, but we need to pass in the value. The value is, what is the value? What does it expect me to pass in? I can't remember. Okay, so it does accept an array. If it is an array, then it builds a try from the array. Does it expect is end? No. Okay, perfect. So what I can do, but that's try node, okay, is create a try. Once this code is loaded, const word try is equal to new try node. And we just need to pass in this entire dictionary here. So I'm actually going to break this into a new file. So try goes into its own file because it's going to get messy. It's going to get messy. So break this into its own file. I don't have Webpack set up, and that's why I'm kind of, I don't think that I'm going to be able to just simply import this class like that. Let's see what happens when I try to load a try. That terrible joke made me have an allergy. Okay, better. I guess what I should try to do is see if I can load the class, because I don't have anything that I need in order to make this work. Word try. Let's see if if we have access to, that is not right. Try node is not defined. I was worried about that. What if we export it? Well, I'm already exporting it. What if I say window dot? We can't do that because it's scoped. So the only way to make this work is to indeed put this in the same file for now, because what I don't want to do is set up Webpack just for this. And I know there's ways to do this without Webpack. I know that. I can't, maybe I can just simply import it. Web development has changed so much. Let's see if I can do import try node from there. Okay, so you just have to say in the index, we have to just say it's a type, what is it, type module? I know what I'm doing. Boom. Does that work? 404 not found. Do I need to specify that it's a JavaScript file? Well, it's not broken. Looks like it's good to go. So now if I try to log word try, boom. All right. Excellent. So now I can try to build the try from the list of words, but I need to export this and import it in my file, just like I did with the try. So going to my index.html, go in here, boom, load this here. This is going to be words.js. That is a module. Import that. Pretty much just copy that line. I think it's just words from words. And I'm just going to try to log the first word. Oops.js. I just did the same mistake twice. Boom. All right. Which, that's the first word. I guess it's not alphabetical order. What am I looking for? Yeah, it's the first word. Awesome. It's loaded. So now I can build a try from my words. So now I have a word try. All right. So now I want to just see when I try to submit a word, whether or not my try contains the word. Yeah, which I'm doing inside of a function called check word exists. Check word exists, const exists equals try, words try dot contains current word, or actually let's do the word we pass in. So let's pass in a word here. And I'm just gonna log exists before we return it, just to make sure this thing is working the way that I expected, which it should, because I tested the crap out of that thing. I tested it to death. When I wrote that try class, it's efficient. I've tested it in so many different ways. I know it's good, but just because it's been so long. So anyway, where was that? That was check word exists. We need to pass in current word here. Okay. So exist is true. That is indeed a word. But what about a word that doesn't exist? A. False. The try works. And look how fast that is. Anyway, who cares? So don't need to log that anymore. The next thing we need to do is check for the length. So if, or I guess we should say const is length, is correct length, is equal to the word we pass in, dot length is equal to 5. And we'll just return is correct length. Now remember, these two methods are also going to handle adding in the shake class so that it shakes the row. And also it should also handle popping up the toast with the appropriate error message inside of it. So because of that, we'll say show toast and shake. That's going to be a to-do. We'll to-do that. We will to-do that. So let's see if this works so far. F, nothing happens because, oh wait, it says reading length. Oh, we need to pass in the word. Try it again. F, enter. Okay, we get nothing. The next thing I need to do is implement the backspace button. I don't know what the backspace key is. It's probably backspace, but it might be delete. I don't know. It's probably backspace though. Let's check if it's backspace. Else if key is equal to backspace, I'm assuming it's spelled like that. If it is equal to backspace, then we're going to do current word is equal to current word dot. Let's just do this the simplest way possible. Let's break this into an array. Then let's, what is it? Pop. That won't quite do what I want. So const word as array. So we're going to convert this into an array, then called word as array dot pop, which should pop the last letter off. If I remember correctly, I just did this tutorial. It removes the last item. That's correct. So we're going to pop that off and then say current word is equal to word as array dot join. Yes. Is this the right? I think so, but this should be split. There we go. F, backspace. And the thing is we also need to call update word with, makes me wonder if we should be passing it a letter. If there is no letter, whoops. If we pass it in with undefined, let's just assume that it's going to be a backspace. How about that? If not letter, then we're backspacing. Yo. And if we're backspacing, then we know that this is the logic we want to run. And so we'll call update word with basically nothing in there. And it will know to call it like this. And we'll have an else. Wait a minute. I'm just this is hurting my brain. So this logic won't change. Yeah, it will. So actually, unfortunately, the way that I'm approaching this is a little bit bad. And I would have discovered this, but I am discovering this because we're going to have completely different logic for backspace for finding the cell and all of this. This is going to end up being poor code unless I refactor it immediately. How far am I going to get in this live stream? That is the question. Just thinking for a second, just thinking. So the difference, just so you can be on the same page as me, if you're watching this, the difference is if I'm backspacing, I want to edit the cell I'm currently on instead of the next cell. So really what I should be doing, and this would be a million times easier with React, but what I should be doing is refreshing the DOM, the whole DOM, every single time a letter is typed. So there should be basically a function here called refresh grid that we call, that takes the words and the current word and just populates the grid. That way I don't have to worry about it inside of this function. So I'm gonna do that right now. So const rows is equal to get elements by class name by row. So now we have 5 rows. Let's do array.from, I'm sorry, 6 rows. Array.from, and then that's gonna be document dot. So we have the rows, and now we need to loop through the rows. So rows dot for each row. Let's grab the index as well. Row index. It's not what I'm trying to do. There we go. We then need to loop through the cells. So const cells for row, let's just be explicit here, is equal to, someone has just popped into the chat. How much functionality do you plan to get in today's stream? I don't know. I guess I'm just gonna basically keep going until I feel like I should stop. And I don't know how much further I'm gonna go, to be honest, but I know that what I'm about to do is gonna clean this up quite a bit and I'll feel a lot better about it, but I don't know the answer to that at the moment. But thanks for asking. I think were you the person on Twitter that said that you saw a bunch of other streams of people do this as well? I'm wondering if you are that person, and you saw those videos, did these other people also use a try? Did they also do a try class as well? Or did they just use an array and do like array.search on that array? Just curious. I'll find out eventually, but all right, let's see here. Cells for row is gonna be rows dot, I guess current row dot get elements by class name cell. And I'll just grab, I'll say array.from on this as well, just to keep things consistent. Then we can do cells.forEach, cells for row.forEach, for each cell, and cell index. We want to populate it with the correct letter. Starting here, what I should do is determine which row I'm on in the words submitted array. So if words submitted row index, so if it's 0, in this case, I haven't submitted any words, that will be false. So there's going to be an else case, and the else case is going to be the current word. And then, so actually we should probably do else if, because there's going to be 3 cases. There's going to be either we're going to pull a letter from a word in the words array, the submitted words, or the second case is we're going to pull a letter from the current word that we're on. The third case is going to be, we're going to just add an empty string because there's nothing there. We could say cell.inner HTML is equal to an empty string in that case. In this case, we're going to say else if current word dot split index, and the index is going to be the cell index. That's the one we care about. Then we want to set cell inner HTML equal to that. Yes. Otherwise, if we have a word that's been submitted on here, then we need to do 2 rounds here. We're going to do const word. We are on, the most common solution is to just have 5x6 array to store guesses. I never saw a try, so I have no idea how you are using it. So a try, just so you understand, is a data structure that allows me to search very easily and efficiently through a large array of words. So basically I have this words array. In this case has like almost 6,000 words in it. It's not very scalable, right? If I want to start searching through this and doing search operations on this array, it's not going to be very efficient. It's going to be terrible, really. So a try takes this array and builds a data structure out of it, which I have here. I wrote this code a while back. Builds a data structure out of that array and has a contains method on it, where basically it's going to very efficiently determine whether or not the word that I'm typing in here is or is not in the dictionary of words that I have. Back on this, so word we are on is equal to words submitted row index. Whoa, row index, there we go. We already know that exists because we're in the if here. We've done the check. Then we're going to do the same thing with letter. Const letter we are on. No. Ooh, this is breaking my brain again. I love it. Oh, no, I got this. Const letter we are on is equal to word we are on cell index. I'll just do split. We could probably do index. We can probably index on a string, but I'm not gonna try and figure out whether or not we can right now. And then finally, we'll set the cell inner HTML equal to letter we are on. Does it work? I have no idea. Haven't tried it yet, but let's give it a shot in just a sec. So now we have this refresh grid function. So now instead of doing that logic in here and having this whole which cell, we don't need this anymore. So get rid of that. If not letter, then we're backspacing. Sure, we can still have that logic, but we don't need this logic anymore. And that also means we don't need, I can actually make this much more efficient now. We don't need all these data attributes. So just getting rid of that. And then I can do the same thing with the rows. No longer need those fellas. Okay. So now we have much more efficient HTML. Okay, we don't need to do that there, but we do need to do this here. The current word is the logic that we want to operate on. So the current word, if there is a letter, is just going to be equal to the current word plus the letter. If there's no letter, then we're going to assume we're backspacing, and we're going to split that array into a word array. We're going to pop the array, and then we're going to say current word is equal to the new array after popping the last letter from it. And then after this, we're just going to simply call update word. Now backspacing might work. Okay, so now I figured I would get some errors. I can work this out. So there's an error on line 61. Why would there be because we're not passing letter in. I need to be passing letter in. I just typed in the letter F, just so you know. So I type in the letter F, we get the error. We're calling this function update word. We're calling it and oh, that's what it is. It's not supposed to be update word. I'm supposed to be calling update grid or refresh grid, I think is what I called it. There we go. That's probably what was causing that horrific error. The scenario here is essentially correct. Way too correct. Just reading from the chat, you can search pretty efficiently on hundreds of thousands of words just by using word list.include. That's true, but again, it depends on the level of operations you want to do on the word, right? Let's say, for example, you have this on a server and you have 1,000 users, like the real Wordle, right? You have the word list. You don't want the word list in the person's browser in an application, a real world application. You want this on the server. And so let's say you have thousands of users using this at the same time, which is very plausible for something like Wordle. And then you have a word list of 10,000 words. Okay, maybe it's efficient enough for it to do, thousands and thousands of searches on a 10,000 word array. But what if you want to scale that up? That's when things start to get really weird. All right, so the logic inside of refresh grid is slightly off because it's basically just doing it for every single row. And it makes sense because I'm doing rows for each. The solution here, there's two different ways I could approach this. I could do a for loop and break out of the for loop, or I could do for each and then and just, I guess, update this if logic. So if word submitted row index, that makes sense. So here I should be doing another check, which is basically that we're on the correct row on the grid here. And I'll have to do the same check here. And in order to determine if we're on the right row, I guess in order to put this into words where the people watching this can understand what I'm saying, I'm going to open up an incognito window with Wordle in here, put in a few words, and then about half of a word here. So onion, I guess, I don't know. When we refresh the grid at this point, words that have been submitted, there's 2 of them. And then current word has 3 letters in it. Then the rest of these should be empty strings. So my if check logic is completely off. My if statement logic is definitely off. I should be saying if words, and I should probably just break this logic out. I'm gonna break at least word we are on. No, I don't need to do that. Okay, so because word we are on won't exist inside of this scenario right here. So if word submitted row index, let's say in the case of the very first attempt here, we're gonna end up in this block here because that will be false. And then we'll have current word dot split. Current word is going to be an empty string. So this current word dot split cell index, we're on 0. So the cell index is 0. Actually, it's F at this point. My apologies, because the first time we call it, it's F. So F is, that's a truthy value. So this will go through. And now we're going to say that the inner HTML for every single row is F, because we're looping through every single row. So what I need to do, the way that I'm approaching this is just so bizarre. I am definitely in a position right now where I understand what the issue is, and I'm realizing that the solution is to change the way that I'm approaching this looping, or I could add in logic that checks for the edge cases. And I think my brain is fried right now. Just thinking about this. The first time around, I guess we should check the length of the word. Should add console.log. It always helps. That's true. But I definitely already understand the issue. It's just a matter of like how I want to approach it. And I think I'm going to check the length of the word here. I'll turn this into a ternary statement that checks for the length of the word. So current word dot length is greater than, or I should say less than, no, let's say greater than or equal to the cell index. That whole time I was not showing my screen, so I apologize for that. All right, so let me just show you what I just did. In the document.addEventListener down here, I had a bunch of nested if checks, and basically what I did was I replaced those nested if checks with just returns. So if not this, then return. If not this, then return. A little bit cleaner. So I just kind of cleaned that up a little bit. And then I went up to the refresh grid function and was talking about the fact that on this side, or actually what I'm doing is I'm looping through each of these DOM elements, and that shouldn't be what I'm looping over. Instead, I'm going to do this a little bit different than the way that I'm doing it right now. I'm just going to comment everything out that's in this function currently. And I might even full screen this just so I can focus solely on the code for a second, because what I need to do is instead of looping over the DOM elements, I should first loop over the word submitted, then I should loop over the word that I'm on, and then everything else should just be empty strings. And I think that that is going to be a little bit more intuitive and easier to rationalize as I move forward. And I want to simplify the code at this point, so I think this is the best way to go. So words submitted dot for each. So we have the word and the, I guess we could say word index. And for every single word, and in fact, I actually am going to bring this back over here because having the visual aspect is pretty nice. Okay, so for each word, we then want to loop through all of the letters of the word. Word.split.for each. Letter index. So in here, we just simply want to find the row we're on, find the cell we're on, and then populate it with the letter that we're on. Const cell, or I guess we should say current row is equal to document.get elements by class name, word index. And I'm going to convert this. I don't actually need to convert that to an array because I think I can access a query list from like using the same syntax. So we want to access it using the word index. So the class name we're looking for is row. So the current row we're on is this. Then the current cell we're on is going to be current row dot get elements by class name, cell index. Should be letter index. Sorry, letter index. That's better. So we have the current row, the current cell. Now we just need to say current cell dot inner HTML is equal to the letter. That is, in my opinion, much cleaner. So that is the words. So that could be up to, however many words. The next thing, I guess, would be the current word we're on. Current word dot split dot for each. And this is going to be by letter and letter index. Okay, here's the deal though. And it looks like I can just go ahead and scrap all this code at this point. It seems like this method is going to work. We also need to know the row index at this point. So I'm actually going to put a variable up here called const current row index. And that is just going to be the current row we're on. We can figure out the current row we're on by determining how many items are in the word submitted array. So words submitted.length. So the current row index is where we're going to apply this loop. All right. So if let's say we also break this out into a variable up here. So current const current word array equals that. So now I can just reference this without having to constantly break it into an array. If current word array, current word array letter index, we instead, I'm going to do a for loop here. The reality is we want to loop 5 times on this particular one, period. So I'm actually going to do, we can do it this way. VS Code's autocomplete has been kind of whack lately. This is just going to be an array with 5 items in it so that I can loop 5 times. I could do a for loop, but I'd rather not because I just want to keep the same syntax. Probably for loop would be, I don't know, they're both the same. It's fine. So for each, now we can say letter. Actually, we don't want to do that. We want to say index, or I don't know. Heck, I could even make this easier and make these the actual indices. So for each index, and I don't need these parentheses anymore. So for each index, if, now we can do the if else. If the current word array index exists, then we know we have a letter there and we can populate the current cell with the letter that we have, but we don't have access to the current cell. We don't know what the current cell is yet. We'll grab that in a second. Otherwise, we know we're going to populate the current cell with an empty string. To get the current cell, we already know what the current row index is. So to get the current cell, let's do const current row is equal to this. We'll take the same logic here, but instead of using the word index to index it, we'll use current row index. And then we'll use the exact same logic here for current cell, but instead of using letter index, we'll just use index. And then we'll populate that. So current cell. And this logic, by the way, needs to just be out of the if else because we're going to use it in both cases. So if that, then current cell dot inner HTML is equal to, and I'm going to make this a ternary instead of an if else. Just give me a second on that. So current cell dot inner HTML is equal to this. And if that's the case, then we're going to populate it with a letter. Otherwise, we're going to do an empty string. So I can get rid of this if else completely and just use a ternary. To get the current letter, we just want to do current word array, basically just this. And to be honest, we could just even make this simpler and do that. So then we don't have a ternary. We're just short circuiting straight to an empty string. Now we have this, and I don't think we need to really do empty strings for the rest of them. They can just be empty. Like there doesn't have to be an empty string as the inner HTML for the rest of these. If that makes sense. So does this work? That is a good question. I type in FALLS and click enter, and then I'm going to type in FALLS all the way down, and it appears to work. Oh, why did it do that twice? Let me try that again. APPLE. I think I just typed it too fast. Okay, it appears to be working. So this refresh grid function to me is way cleaner than what I did yesterday. And I was honestly pretty tired last night. I didn't really expect myself to be able to get too far yesterday, but I actually went further than I thought I would. So I'm this far. I think I'm good on the refactoring for now. Okay, what about the letters? Let's get the, let's show the yellow, the gray, and the green background colors whenever we submit a word. How about that? I have that color palette here, I think, here. So this color palette is what we're going to use to change the background colors of those squares. So let's do 3 classes. Let's do correct, incorrect, and then correct, or let's do match, includes, and no includes. Maybe that's fine. Actually, I think not includes. Sure. So match will be green, not includes will be gray, and includes will be yellow. Let's get those hex values using my little trusty extension Colorzilla. So includes will be background color this, then we'll do not includes is this background color, and match will be that background color. So now we have the background colors. We just need to add the classes. So we need a function that's going to add these classes whenever we find matches, includes, or not includes. So when we submit a word, okay, I'm going to close that and that for now. So when we submit a word, we're calling, where are we calling this? We are calling this block here when we try to submit a word. Boom. This is the actual submit logic right here. We're submitting here, and then we're doing some checks. This is the submit logic. I'm going to break this out into its own function called submit word submit word. And just because I want to be able to potentially move these out into their own helpers, maybe not. I think it might make sense to pass in the current word and then return an updated array, but nah, I think this is fine for now. I don't want to over optimize at this point. So now in the submit word function, we should also do the checks to determine the class names that need to be added. So after we submit the word, let's do a check where we basically break the current word. Let's do two arrays. Const current word array is equal to current word dot split. Then we're going to do the same thing with the actual word, which we're calling chosen word. Is that right? I think we're calling it chosen word. Chosen word array with chosen word dot split. And then we'll loop through, or you know what? Let's do another for each. It's just easier. Chosen word array dot for each letter and letter index we will need as well. There will be a series of checks that we'll do here. All right, so the first scenario is the fact that there is indeed a direct match. So if there's a direct match, we need to add the match class to that particular cell. So the first check is going to be that the letter is exactly equal to current word array on the same index. So if that's the case, then we're going to add match class to cell. Else, if there is just an includes, can do, I think it's starting to make more sense to do this loop on the current word array. So current word array instead, then we would do chosen word array here. Okay. If the current letter we're on is included by the chosen word, so chosen word dot includes, then we have an includes. And then otherwise it does not exist in the word at all. So not includes class. So all we need to do is get the current cell. And to do that, it's pretty easy. I think we can use the same logic as from up here. I'm going to basically grab this line, come down here, throw this at the, we want to throw this at the top before we push this. So I'm actually going to put this word submitted update at the bottom. And so current row index would be this. Okay, great. So now what we need to do to get the current cell is the same logic that I'm running in here. And since I'm duplicating logic, I might break that into a function. So now we have the current cell, current row, and all we just want to do is add that class name. So current cell, cell dot class list dot add match. Then we want to do includes for this one and not includes for this one. Saving, let's see what happens. Yeah, all right, let's see. Astro. Index is not defined on line 71. That's because index is obviously not defined. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So we need to get the current row index, I think, or actually the current cell is going to depend on where we're at in the loop. So I don't know why I did it there, but we're going to throw it in here. Letter index is what we will use, and that should work. So let's try Astro, click enter. Okay, that's working. What's another letter that's in Apple? P, so plays. Okay, PLAs. And then if I do Apple, they're all green. Okay, we win. That looks good. At some point, if I have energy and the time at the end of this stream, I will probably add the animations that cause it to rotate over the x-axis and make it look pretty. But if not, you know, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how things go. All right, what's next? I mean, we have the ability to play the game now. We know we won. But I think what's next is let's add the toasts. So I think I found a shake animation. So this is something I prepared for beforehand. I just wanted to have links available. I haven't implemented it. I'm pretty sure it'll work though, because when I hover over it, it looks like the shake animation that I want for Wordle. So I'll probably use this same shake animation. So credit goes to Sarah here. And two things happen when there's a mismatch, right? So let's say we're doing these two checks. We're checking for the length of the word. Let's say this fails. Two things need to happen. One, the row needs to shake. And two, we need to see a toast that says why there's a problem. In the case of check for length, it needs to say something like word is not long enough. In fact, let me see what the exact message is. I think I have a Wordle incognito window open. If I click enter, it says not enough letters. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Let's do that. Not enough letters. So where we're running this function is check for length. Here we have a to-do that says show toast and shake. So I think we'll add a class that causes the row to shake. Then we'll take it away after a set timeout. So let's add the class here for that row. So step one, add, well, first is get current row. I'm definitely going to break that logic into its own function because I've used it so many times. It's just, you know, DRY, don't repeat yourself, whatever. Get current row. 2, add shake class to row. 3, set timeout, remove class. There we go. But somewhere in here, we need to add the toast. Let's add the toast before all this. So step 0, add toast message. And the toast message was not enough letters. Easy enough. So we will need a new element in the index.html called, well, let's make a div with a class of toast. And this toast class will have a width of, let's just do 150. No. Yeah, sure. 150 pixels, height of 50 pixels. Let's do a background color. Let's do the same background color as this gray here. And border radius, I don't know, 5 pixels, sure. Color, white. Let's see where it pops up. So it's popping up here because the body at the top is display flex, but we need to do flex direction row. Whoops. Flex direction row, I think, right? Or is it column? Whoops. Right, it's column. And, you know, actually, yes, this should be flex direction column because we're also going to have the keyboard at the bottom, but I'm thinking now that we probably want to have the grid and the toast inside of a top level container here. Yeah, let's grab these guys, create a div, and I don't know what we'll call it. Maybe top section. I wish I would have set up prettier for this project before. All right, so let's do a class of top section. So top section, running down here, let's put it above the toast. Display flex, flex direction, whoa, flex direction column. Come on. And let's add in a gap of 25 pixels. And then let's also align items center. Okay. And then I'm going to take from the top here, instead of doing align item center, for now, I'm just going to, whoops, that was the wrong one. We want to get rid of that. Yeah, that is about right. Let's do space between. Let's see what that looks like really quick. Space between. There's one more thing that's going to get added to this view, which is the keyboard at the bottom. So if we look at the Wordle, the actual Wordle, there's a keyboard at the bottom. And I'm also noticing that this is smaller than what I have. So I'm going to decrease the size in just a second, but there's going to be a top level container too. So there's going to be a top section, bottom section, and then a main, I guess you could say a main. So let's cut this and then let's do the main div, put that in there. For some reason, the formatting is a bit off here. What's going on? Nope, it's not off. I'm just tripping. So we want to just make the main class have a height of 100%. Whoa. Or maybe not. Full screen this for just a moment. Bring this over here and look at the main class. It is, oh, it's because, whoa, it went away. There we go. It's because the main class itself needs to be what I'm applying. So all this flex stuff basically needs to be removed from the body and applied to the main. All right, so now we have that, but now we want to say space evenly, I think it is. There we go. Yes, actually it will be space between once I add the keyboard, but for now I'm just gonna leave it like this. You'll see the change later. We're gonna need, let's grab an ID. So this toast should be ID of toast, to be honest, instead of class, because there's only gonna be one toast element. And so I need to come back in here and change that from a dot to a hash to get that. And then in here, when we add the message, which is here, we're going to do document.get element by ID toast dot inner HTML is going to be equal to this message. All right, so saving, and by default, the toast needs to be hidden, but let's just see if it at least adds the text to the toast here. So let's do APP, enter not enough letters. Let's do it where there is enough letters, APPLE. It still adds it. And the reason why it adds it is because we only want to call this in the scenario where it's not is correct length. So if not is correct length, then we want to do these things. Otherwise, we definitely do not want to do these things here. So trying again, APPLE, we win, no message. We get it wrong. Oh wait, oops. All right, we do in fact get it. So let me style that just very quickly. It looks terrible. So the toast is gonna get a display of flex, align items, center, justify content, center. The font is going to be font family sans serif. Whoa, font family sans serif. Let's decrease the font size slightly to 14 pixels. Is that about right? Where is it? It's in an incognito window right here. If I do this, that's about right, but it needs to be bold. Font weight, bolder. That's okay. I like it. But what I think we should probably not do is define the width. We shouldn't hard code the width. Instead, let's use a padding left. Actually, let's just do a straight up padding of maybe 10 pixels. See what that, ooh, I don't like that. Let's do padding left and padding right. Padding left, padding right, because we don't know how many letters or how big the message will be. So we want to make sure that it's a dynamic width. And we probably want to go ahead and get rid of the height as well, because it might be, no, I think the height should be fine. Let's just leave this the way it is. Looks good. Now, by default, we're going to do visibility hidden. So now we don't see it. So the next thing we need to do for the toast is, I guess that's step 0.5, add visibility class. Inside of here, we're going to add a class at the very bottom. This will override all other classes called visible. And instead of visibility hidden, it will be visibility visible. Whoa. There we go. Here, we just need to add the toast, add the class to the toast, the visible class. Let's grab it. So const toast div, grab this code, say toast div instead, and then also do toast div dot class list dot add visible. Now remember, we're going to also make this hidden afterwards. So first I just want to see that it shows up. It's not showing up right now. Visible toast div dot class list dot add visible, where we, what's breaking? So visibility visible, I could try adding important, but we shouldn't need to do that. It is there now though. Let me think about that one for a minute. So APP, now it shows up, but if I get rid of the important, it does not show up. So why is that getting overwritten? Where's the toast? Toast, toast. It has the class visible. Okay. And then visibility is hidden. Oh, is it because IDs override? So IDs must override. Let's do maybe this. How about that? Oh, you're supposed to have a, what is it in CSS? It might be that. Yeah, it's that. Okay, got it. So refreshing, APP, not enough letters. Awesome. And then just to make sure that it doesn't show up when it's not supposed to. Looks good. So we want it to show up for like a second or something and then disappear. Let's look at the actual Wordle thing. So if I click it, it shows up for about what, 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds, 3 seconds, and then just fades out. So in preparation for this, I found a fade out transition. We want to do fade out. We'll give it we'll add a new class name called fade out that does this, but notice that it's operating on the opacity, which means I need to add the opacity here and the default to be 0. And then in the visible state, the opacity needs to be 1. This is going to be over 2 seconds linear. So that should be correct, but I need to add the fade out after, I guess immediately, technically, or there's a way to pause. There's a way to pause it. Let's just see what happens the second I do this, right? Let's do this. Toast div. First of all, I want to add the text before I add the class. Okay, so anyway, let's also add this class list. Add line to add in the fade out class and just see what happens here. Okay, so it instantly fades out because, oh wait, it delayed 2 seconds. We don't want that. Okay, what is going on with that? That might not be exactly what I want. So I click enter, it waits 2 seconds, it delays 2 seconds, and then it goes. So the reason why is because we're adding visible. The opacity is 1, visibility is visible. Let's comment this out. app, okay, it adds it instantly. So the fade out class is definitely doing something wonky. There we go. It's better, but it's still not fading out. It doesn't have the fade out class because I have it commented out still. That would help. Okay, so it's doing this weird thing where it delays it. It's not the behavior I would have expected, but if we look at the toast, it has the fade out class. The reason why, I think I understand what's going on. It is being overridden by this visible class. So I'm thinking we don't want the visible class at all for this. There we go. That's what it is. Let's see what's going on now. The reason why that's happening is because actually we do need the visible class. It just needs to be above it. There we go. So let's try this again. App. Did I get rid of? Yeah, I need to add this again. Okay, let's try this one last time. So 1, 2. Nope. Refresh. Why isn't it happening now? So let's jump in. Take a look at the toast, see what classes it has. It has both visible and fade out. Visible, but maybe we can put both on the screen at the same time. That's a little rough, but let's work with it here. So visible, opacity is 1, visibility is visible. This is saying opacity is 0. Oh, that's what it is. That shows how much I understand CSS transitions. There's a collision here between the opacity and the visible. So if I look at this code again, they're essentially switching between a visible and a invisible. They're not adding both at the same time. That is the issue because these opacities are clashing, causing it to just not really show up the way I want it to, which means that opacity should be 1 for this, maybe just one moment. Okay, no. So we just probably don't want to set that. Really what we're trying to do is switch between visible and fade out. Let's keep this at 1, and instead of having both, we need to only have 1 at any given time. So basically what we need to do is in the script file, and I can probably just get rid of this dual window action. In the script file, let's give it the visible class for 2 seconds, or maybe something like that. Yeah, let's say 2 seconds, and then do a set timeout. That's going to remove the visible class and then add in the fade out class. So instead of add, it should be, I think, remove. Let's see what happens here. Oh, wait, it needs to show this before that. So I need to actually keep this. So we need to add the class before we can remove it. And now let's see what happens. There we go. So it shows up, fades out. I don't like how long the fade is though. Let's do maybe the fade. So I think this is the delay. Shorthand combines for the transition properties. Goodness. Let's do maybe half a second here and see what this does. Ooh, I don't like that. 0.5. That's better. APP shows up, disappears. That's better. That's good. But what is this value? It's kind of weird. Like maybe those should match. That's good enough for me. I like that. So now we have the toast action. It looks to me as though I'm not able to do it more than once though. Like it should show up every single time I try to submit it. And the reason why is because we're not removing, we need to remove the fade out class after. So probably right here would be a good spot to remove it. All right, folks, I think this is the one. So APP, boom, shows up, fades out, click enter again, shows up, fades out. What happens if I just keep pressing enter? I'm just pressing enter nonstop. I let go. Press it again. All right, that's not too buggy. I kind of like that. Good enough for me, right? And then if I finish it up, oh, that's not a word. So that's where, oh, you know what's interesting is that 3 Ps just showed up. We'll figure that one out in a minute. But first, I should take this same logic and create a function called showToast. Or did I already do that? I did not. So we're going to create a function called showToast. And I'm going to start moving things into different files shortly. So const showToast, toast. And then we'll do a message, MSG, and take this logic here, move it out completely, throw it into here. And instead of hard coding the message here, we will set it equal to message. And then in here, we will simply call showToast with that string. So make sure that still works. Not enough letters. Perfect. So the reason why I did that is because I want to call showToast as well inside of my check for word exists function. If not exists, then we want to show toast, but instead of not enough letters, what is the exact thing we want to show? We want to show not in word list, not in word list. So if I do B, boom, not in word list, shows up. Now, one thing I'm noticing is that animation is a little bit quicker on here. So it goes and then it's gone. So I am actually going to match it a little better. So let's say 1/4 of a second. And instead of waiting 2 full seconds, let's do maybe something like 1200 milliseconds. So B, boom, not in word list, disappears. It's even less than that. It might even be like 750 milliseconds. B, not in word list, disappears. That's pretty close to this. Although the vanishing is even faster and I want to get it pretty close. So let's do, yeah. All right. That's good for me. I like that. Now the next step is going to be to shake the row. Okay. Well, we have a row shake keyframe that I'll throw to the bottom here. So we have this shake animation keyframe, and all we want to do is add this to a class called shake it. Why not? Let's just call it shake it. And we're going to do a very similar thing here with the row that we're doing to the toast. We're going to add the class, it'll shake, and then we're going to take it away. If I look at the Wordle thing here, it shakes for about, what is that, 1/4 of a second, maybe half a second. So we'll do the set timeout thing very similar. So instead of show toast, we'll add another function here called const shake row. Now, which row do we want to shake? Well, we know that the row that we're shaking is always going to be the current row we're on. So I can take that get current row logic, which I need to go ahead and break into its own function. I don't know if I really need to do that. Current row index here. I might break that into its own function, but it doesn't seem super necessary right now. Maybe. Let's just const get current row div. Let's just do it. And then we will go const row div equals array. No, document dot get elements by class name. The class name we want is row, and the index we want is current row index. And then let's just return that. So now we can say const current row equals get current row div. Then we want to add that shake class to it. So current row dot class list dot add shake it, set timeout. I think it was what, half a second maybe. And we can do the removal of that class. All right, let's see what happens when we call it. So check for length. We're going to show the toast. and we're gonna shake row. Okay. Look at that. I actually think that looks pretty close to the original. So let's have both on the screen at the same time. And let's do dark mode here. So if I do AAA and click enter, we get not enough letters and it shakes. If I do AA here, same thing. Although I'm noticing that the color of the toast is not the correct color, but the animation is almost identical. I like it. I just want to change the color of the toast really quick because I didn't realize that it's actually a white background. And the color, whoops, I'm going to use the same hex value for the font color. So if we go to the color, let's change that. So let's look at the toast here. That's almost identical. The only, that's close enough for me. I'm not about to try. The only thing that I'm noticing that's really bothering me is this does need to be smaller. So I am going to do that before going any further. Just quickly make this smaller. So instead of 70, let's do 50 by 50, which means this needs to be 250. And that's a little bit too small. So maybe 60. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. So that'd be 300. Is that better? Whoops. Go back. That is, are these the same height and width? It doesn't look like it to me. I've been seeing that for both today's stream and yesterday's stream, and it doesn't, 56 by 64. I think what's happening is it's not fitting inside of the, what is it I'm trying to say? It's not, the text is too big maybe. No, it's still, there must be, oh, I know what it is. It's because it's display flex. We want to probably, for the row, set the flex basis maybe, or it might, that might be what goes, that might have to be for the child. Is it 50? No, it's supposed to be 60 pixels. Okay, maybe it is supposed to be in the child. That is so weird to me. I can't remember exact, it's kind of been a minute. Yeah, it does not want to do that. So I'm going to do a Google flex item set height and width. Yes. Well, I don't want it to stretch. That's the thing, right? Yes. Boom, 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 boom. Max height, flex 250. So that's the flex basis. That's basically what I was doing. It's not that big of a deal, to be honest. But I'll come back to that. That's something that I noticed, is that the height is not, Flexbox is stretching it. And I'm, you know, it could also be, you know what it is? I bet it's because I've got the height set for 5 rows instead of 6. So the height, so the grid, maybe if I set hard code the height, nah, we'll leave this undone for now. Okay, cool. So got the shake action. I think the only other thing is I need to add that same logic for the other error case, which is here. All right, so now we are done with those two. If I do AAA, we get a shake, we get a toast, not enough letters. If I do AAAA, not in word list. Backspace out of that. APP, try to click enter, PLE, we get a victory. Looking good. So what's next? I mean, at this point, we're pretty close to being done. I mean, there's the keyboard at the bottom, which I'll do, I guess now, because it really doesn't seem like there's anything else to really do. I can start looking at the code and seeing how I can quickly optimize it a little bit. Got a lot of reused code here. For example, row get current row div I just implemented. I could probably use that in, you know, throughout here. So just like this. So we are doing that in here. For example, current row index. We could just do current row equals current row index. So we don't need, yeah. So I'm going to get rid of this. And instead, I'm going to do get current row div for this line. Make sure I didn't break anything. Looks good to me. So can I break this logic out? So all we're doing here is we're trying to get the current cell. So maybe we need a function called const get cell div. And two things we'll need is the row index and the cell index. So I guess an X and a Y, if you think about it, because it's a two-dimensional grid. X is going to be the cell index, and I think I'd better just, be more specific here. So row index, cell index, that would be a little safer. So let's take this, paste this in here, call get cell. So const current cell is equal to get cell div. Then we want to pass in word index for the row and letter index for the cell index. And then we can replace these here, row index, cell index. And then I no longer really need that variable, so I can just cut this out and replace this with that. Excellent. So now how do we get reusability action? So if row index is undefined here, so if it's not undefined, we'll return that. Otherwise, we should just return get. Actually, to make this easier, let's say row index is equal to row index or get current row div. No, sorry. I am derping right now, but I got this. Row div. Then we do that. Otherwise, we could do get current row div. Boom. All right. That's the logic that we want. Then down here, we want to conditionally pass in. Oh, we should also return it. Return current cell. So where was I? Get cell div. Letter index. Excellent. And then in this scenario here, we don't need this anymore. And we can say get current cell. Or I guess it's, what is it? Get cell div, get cell div. And we want to pass in undefined for row index, and the cell index should be index. Yep. So get cell div, undefined, and I'll actually need to do something in just a second. So undefined, because 0 is nullish. It's falsy, I mean. So undefined and index. And then we no longer need to do this. We can optimize this further. Current word array is up there, looking good. So the issue is we don't want to check for whether or not it exists. We want to make sure that we're checking specifically for undefined. So if it's undefined, then we want to return the current row div. Otherwise, we return that. Okay, so now we're checking more explicitly, which is not going to cause an issue when row index is 0. Did I introduce bugs? Let's find out. FAS. Okay, so nothing's happening FAS. So we're getting an error somewhere. Looks like row div is not defined on line 72. Line 72. Instead of row div, it should be row index. Okay, so that was the issue. FASTS, enter. APPLE, enter. Looks like it's working good to me. So optimization looking good. Let's see, I'm gonna scroll down one more time and see if there's anywhere else I can optimize. Show toast looks good. Get current row div, shake row, check for length, check where it exists. Victory, we'll show a modal shortly. We'll also show a modal with the game over. Get cell div is a good function. to have current word.split. I don't think we're using any of these. Okay. Current row index. We don't need this anymore. We can use the get current row div function. Current cell. We don't need this either. We can do const current cell equals get cell div. We want to pass in for the row. For the row, we want current row. So this is actually slightly different logic. This is getting a cell by a row. So we can't really use that same function for this scenario here. We can, however, do get current row div here and keep it optimized in that way. But we definitely need slightly custom functionality here for this because, or do we? No, we don't. We absolutely do not. So we have the current row index. We can use get cell div here. Get cell div. Then we're going to pass in current row index here and the letter index for that. Awesome. Then we no longer need this line whatsoever. So let's make sure that that works still. But I have confidence that it does. Let's say, yeah, that's working. All right, and then down here, current word dot length is less than 5 and alphabet dot include. So this logic is basically, we can put this into like a word variable so that we can know what this is checking for exactly. So it's not really necessary, but it is nice to have. So const word is, oh wait, I guess we could say const alpha. What should we say? Key is letter. Const key entries less than 5. So now I can just check for key is letter and entries less than 5. So now we just have a clearer idea of what it is we're looking for. So if I come back like 3 months later, I don't have to think as much, which is nice. Else if key equals enter, then we are doing those 2 checks, submitting the word if we get that far. Then if we do submit the word, we are saying if current word is equal to chosen word, we have a victory. If word submitted dot length is equal to 6, and this did not pass, then we know it's game over. Otherwise, we're going to reset the word and refresh the grid. And then in the case of Backspace, we're calling update word with undefined, which checks whether or not it is undefined. And if it is undefined, then it backspaces. Cool. All right. So now I'm in a point where we're almost done, basically. We can pretty much play the entire game. The only thing is I want to say when you lose. So if I go here and I lose. Oops, let's just do Apple like 10 times. Oh, we got to wait. And I may add this animation, we'll see. Depends on how I feel when I get done here. And okay, so what happens when you lose is it shows the toast permanently with the chosen word. So that's one thing we need to quickly add. So that happens on game over. So inside of game over, we're going to do the show toast logic, but without the set timeout. So I'm just going to grab this chunk here. Boom. I thought I grabbed more than that. What just happened? All right. So get the toast div, set the text to the word. So chosen word. chosen word, get rid of the fade out class because that could still be there, add the visible class, and then we're just not going to add the set timeout. So let's see what happens. Boom, there it is. And just out of curiosity, they capitalize it. So let's do that. Let's capitalize it. .to uppercase. Oh, I gotta do that again. There it is. Okay. Looking good. And then what happens, right? So after you lose, I guess I have to refresh. After you lose, it shows the word and then shows a modal with this in it. We could show a modal that just says you lose because I'm not going to add all this junk in there. That is definitely production level stuff. So I'll probably just show a modal or something that says you lose, or I don't know. There's a couple of things left though. One of the things that I just remembered we should probably do is, and I'm not going to do it yet because we need this for testing, but I think this will be the last thing I do is actually choose a word randomly from the array. So what should be next? Let's do the keyboard. The keyboard is going to be a little bit of a doozy. It shouldn't be too rough, but I'm going to keep this over here and let's jump in. This is going to be inside of the main div, but outside of the top section div. We're going to create another div with a class of bottom section. And we'll have 3 rows, but I'm not going to call it row because row is specific to the grid. Whoops. There's going to be 3 rows. 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to add the backspace and the enter button because that's pointless in this case. That's going to be, wait. So just out of curiosity, I guess you could technically use these to click on instead of entering in the words. I might add that functionality. Again, who knows how far we're going to get in this. But we're in a good place now, so maybe. What are we going to call this? Letter row? Class. Oops. Class. Keyboard row. Keyboard row. Let's do that. I like that. All right, so the first row is going to be, I guess each one will get a class. Class will be key. Probably don't need to do an ID because we can just check by child content. So we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wait, I think that was 10. If not, we'll get to it in just a second. So just jumping through here. Really wish that window would stop popping up so I didn't have to press escape. And right as I said that, it didn't. Definitely need one more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so I did count it wrong the first time. Anyway, I'm going to copy this and paste it here and then add the appropriate letters. So going through, it's going to be A, S, D, F, G, H, J, K, L. And the final row, the third row, is going to be Z, X, C, V, B, N, M. Save. Now I minimize this and whoa, look at that. We got the letters. Doesn't look very good, but we have them. So remembering the class names we have bottom section, keyboard row, and then keys. So jumping down to about here, we need to do bottom section. This is going to have a display of flex. We're going to do Flexbox. And flex direction will be column. Or is it supposed, where'd it go? Where are we at? Is this supposed to be row? I gotta think about this. No. Should be the same as what I did for the grid. So just run over to the grid. Flex direction is indeed column. The gap is 5 pixels. So I should probably use that as well. Now, each key has a background color in the beginning. So when we initialize the application, if we look at Wordle, it has, I need to probably enter into a new incognito window, which means I need to add the dark theme again. Dark theme. So each key has this color attached to it. Can I not use I can't use my extensions in incognito mode? Ah, that's a bummer. So getting that color is going to be not super possible, but let's try this and kind of just try to eyeball it. So I think it's going to be right around there. And the color is white. All right, so if I had to guess, the height is probably 50 pixels, maybe 70, maybe 60, and the width is probably 45 or 50 pixels. Epic. So now we just need to do keyboard row to get that display flex going. And there we go. So each of these rows needs to be justify content center. Looking good. Let's do a gap. Not fap. That's hilarious. 10 pixels. Okay, it doesn't fit, but the other one does, right? The actual Wordle fits. Barely. So they're using legitimate Flexbox to fit that. Let's do a width of 100 view width, perhaps. And width here of 100%. Wonder if the gap is what's breaking it? No. Let's just reduce the gap to maybe 5. Okay, so the gap is what's breaking it here in a sense. So what I probably will do instead of using a gap is probably just do a margin, perhaps. I don't know if that's even going to be what I want. No, the margin needs to go on the keys. Unfortunately, not quite. All right, so for now, I'll leave it like this just so I can see everything, and then we'll get a hold of it in a moment. The bottom section does not need a gap, I don't think, or is that what? Yeah, we do need a gap there. It should probably be more than, let's do 7 pixels, and this is definitely going to bother me. Actually, let's do 10. This is definitely going to bother me. I'm going to need to do a gap here, even though it is currently causing issues. So I'm going to do oh, you know what it is? It's because of that, I bet. Yeah, so let's do flex 1 perhaps, and a height we'll set to 60 pixels. How about that? Close. Flex 1, flex basis. I'm actually not a huge fan of doing that because it's causing each one to be a different width. So back to this, 45 pixels is fine. Border radius, 5 pixels. Then it is going to be display flex as well. We're going to do flex align items center, justify content center. Same thing, font family, sans serif. In fact, I can just move this to the body, and wherever I see this, I'm just going to remove it and then add it back here. So basically I just removed, oh, well, I thought I removed the references. Apparently not. And there should be one more somewhere. Yeah, it's right here. I don't need those anymore because I'm referencing it in the body selector. So the gray needs to be a little darker for sure. It might actually just be the gray variable. That looks good. Font size. What is going on here? I lost my, oh, it's because I don't have a semicolon. Font size, 14 pixels, maybe, yep. And then font weight, bolder. Pretty close. Pretty close. Looks good. I think instead of bolder, it might just be bold. But, you know, whatever. We'll keep it. Now I'm just thinking for a minute, because the one thing that's bothering me is the fact that, okay, it looks good at this size, but there is a certain size where it just kind of goes off screen. So I think I'll just deal with that for now. It's really not that big of an issue. They have a really good responsive system set up for their app, but anyway. All right, so as we do these things, so just, is that a word? Not a word list. Icons. I gotta keep a word in mind. What are we thinking? Astro. That's a good one. Or is it? How about apps? No, not asps. Apps. That's not a word. What am I doing? Yeah, Astro is gonna have to do for now. I can't think of what about plays and Astro. Those are good. So as we make these green and gray and whatever, we need to do the same thing down there. Fair enough. And I think I understand what's happening now. Sorry, I am all over the place. What might be happening is the body width needs to be 100 view width. We need to have 0 margin and 0 padding. That is indeed what was causing it. But what about if we add a little bit of padding? No padding. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Fixed it. Now the bottom section, we could probably add a little padding, maybe 10 pixels, and that shouldn't, oh, yeah, that does not. I think it's because we need to do box sizing, border box here. There we go. And I'm not sure I like the height. Whatever. I'm not going to get that crazy about this. But yeah, that looks pretty good. So back to the script. When we submit a word, so there is a function for that called submit word. I think it's called submit word. Submit word. We're adding the match class, the current cell class, and the not includes class. So we just need to do one more operation, which is find the letter in here that we are currently on, and then add the same class to that. So jumping here, we're going to say const get keyboard letter, pass in the letter, and this is going to be a div, obviously. So add the div on there just to be very explicit as to what I'm doing. So we will get the div by basically const div equals array.from, because we're going to do a find on it. So array.from document.get elements by class name. The class name I think is key. Document.get elements by class name key dot find, where the key div, we want the key div where the inner, key div dot inner HTML is equal to the letter. So what this is doing is it's creating an array from all of the key divs. Then it's finding the one where the inner HTML is equal to the letter that we're passing in here. And then we just return div. That looks cleaner. And so now above here, we can say const letter div is equal to think it's called get keyboard letter div, and then we pass in the letter. And the letter, we already have access to it right here. And I don't really need to do it like that. Instead, I'm going to do this and then add. So class list dot add, you know, whichever class we have here. And I can see that this is going to become slightly, every time we want to add a new case, we need to add it to 3 different code blocks. So it would be easier just to do it down here and then have a variable up here. Let class name equal, well, let's just initialize it. Say class name equals match. Class name equals includes. And then same thing with not includes. Then we can get rid of all of these. And then here down at the bottom, we can add these in and just say add class name to both of these. So now we're not, yeah, it's just a little cleaner, I think. Maybe not, who knows? It's all opinion. All right, let's see if it works. Astro. Ooh, we got an error. Something broke. What broke? Cannot read properties undefined. Reading class list. Class list. So this is returning undefined. My brand new function that I love so much. So if we look at the HTML, each of these does in fact have a class called Q. Oh, it's because we need to do, it's an uppercase version, you see. So we really should be doing .to lowercase on this call, on both of these really, just to make sure that we're matching properly. So Astro, boom. All right, that appears to not cause any errors anymore, but it did not do what it's supposed to do down here. And I'm just trying to put everything on, because I have my code editor zoomed in so much. I want to make sure you're able to see all the code, but it's hard to fit everything on here. Working on it though. That should be better. So why is it not adding the class name? So let's refresh and try Astro one more time. Astro, click enter. If I go to A, oh, you know what? Maybe it's actually adding the class. It does have the class match. It must be that the way that I'm doing it in the CSS is that, yes, I'm overriding the background colors. So these classes here with where I'm setting the background color for includes, match, and not includes pretty much should just go to the very bottom of the CSS file. Now look at that. Awesome. So icons, plays, Apple, boom. Success. Although I wonder, I'm noticing something odd. It's not too odd, but I think it's probably the actual functionality of the game as well, is that, let's refresh. I'll do my best to explain it. So plays, notice how P is yellow. But then if I do app, I don't know, I need a word with P in the correct place. Opens, yeah. So now P has turned green because it's matched here. But then if I go back to plays, it stays green. So what happens when I do the exact same thing here? I don't know what the word is of the day. What is the word? I think it was ultra, right? Because I did it yesterday. I think it's ultra. So let's do align. So it's definitely not ultra. I don't know what the word is today. Oh wait, I think I do remember. It's like Robin. That's what it is. So I is yellow. This is going to be hard. Or we could just try R. ACES, races. Okay, R is in the right spot, but what about craft? It keeps it green. Okay, so that was the functionality I just wanted to test. I wanted to see if it kept it green or turned it yellow if we later go back and mess it up. we're following the same logic as Wordle. Cool. So I'm pretty sure we're basically done at this point. The only thing is we need to show the game over modal. We need to show the victory modal. And we also need to be able to click on these letters to populate. So we can add an event listener. I guess the first thing I'm going to do is go to the key class and just add a cursor pointer. So now it looks like you can click on them, which is good. Then in the JavaScript, I want to add an event listener, document.add event listener. I guess click. I guess we need the full event here. So we're not going to do it like that. Instead, we're going to loop through. So array.from, give an idea of what I'm talking about in just a second. Array.from document.get elements by class name key. So all of the keys, we're going to loop through this. Keep everything visible. For each key, we'll call it key div, just to remember that we're dealing with divs and not the actual key objects. For each key div, we want to add an event listener for that key. So we'll add the event listener on that key div specifically. And when we click on it, let's grab the value from the inner HTML. So const letter equals, I guess, EVT. I mean, honestly, I have access to it. Let's just get it from the event dot target. Is that right? Dot inner HTML. Let's log letter and make sure that it is what I think it is. So inspect console. Let's put the console on the bottom. Okay, D, F, M definitely works. So we have the letter. So basically I need to call the key down event function that we're running here. So we could just call key update word with key. Well, actually, here's the deal though. We really want to just take all of this functionality and put it into its own function, right? So let's do exactly that. So starting here, all the way to the end. So I'll grab everything in here. We're going to create a function that we will call, I don't know, key down event, and paste in all of that logic. The only thing it should have is the key. So now here we can call key down event with key. And then we can do the exact same thing here. But we're going to call it with letter instead of key. So if I refresh, I should be able to do APPLE and then submit. Now here's the deal. I can actually go in and now add the backspace and the enter buttons, which I was not going to do, but now I am going to do. So the first one is enter. Just run over here. These are going to be on the last row. The first one is enter. And then the last one will just simply be backspace. I want to use this icon, but I don't want to install an icon library just for that. I might be able to find like a built-in version of that, but yeah, not a huge fan of it being that big. So let's do HTML backspace icon and see if there's a native one. It appears there's a native one. So where is, oh, that's material design. No, I want to see a native backspace icon. Is there one? It looks like it. I mean, it's right here. I mean, I just pasted it in. It looks native to me. There it is. So this might not work in different locales. Keep that in mind. What I'm doing here might not work in different locales, but it works here. And I'm not a huge fan of, well, let's just say class. Let's do an ID of Backspace. And the reason why I want to do an ID of Backspace is because I want to make the font size a little bit bigger for it. So dot key, or actually I should just do Backspace if I can type. Let's make the font size just slightly bigger for the Backspace button, maybe 18 pixels. 22 maybe? No, 18 is fine. It's kind of ugly. I wonder if it's because it's bold. No, it doesn't take that into account. We're going to just keep this. So I need to actually add this. Where are we at? So if letter is equal to that Backspace character, which I have still pasted, right? No, I need to copy it one more time. Let's do a simple check on that. We'll say letter is equal to this. If it is equal to this, we will actually just say Backspace instead. Or yeah, it's with a capital B, Backspace. Otherwise, we'll just send in the letter. That way we don't have to change any of our logic inside of the key down event to check for that. We can still just check for Backspace. So let's see what happens if I type in APP and then Backspace, it works. So APP, enter, not enough letters. So the key pressing down here actually works. But there's one thing that I'm noticing, which is that if you look over here, the enter and the Backspace buttons are slightly larger than the rest. So I'm going to probably add an ID for the enter button as well. We'll just say enter. I just deleted it by accident. Okay, cool. Backspace, the width, and I might need to use Flexbases, but let's try width first. 75 pixels maybe. And then the same deal with enter. And I could probably just do 60 pixels. It's not really, maybe 65. 65 is looking good. So we can actually make this a little more efficient and then get rid of that. Boom. Looks pretty good. So now we can play using the mouse. That's not in word list. What do you mean that's not in the word list? It's definitely in the word list. What are you talking about? Something's broken. Because if I do Astro and I click enter, that's definitely in the word list. But if I do it here. Oh, you know what? It's because we need to always make sure that the key is lowercase. Always. So we need to say key is equal to key.to lowercase. We need to transform that. So Astro, interesting. I thought I'm already doing that. So let's just log what we're passing in, because now I'm actually in an interesting case that I'm confused basically. So when we try to submit the word, we are checking beforehand, check for word exists, current word. Let's log current word. Submit, it's Astro all capitalized. And I think the issue is that it's checking, if we go inside of check for word exists, if we go inside this function, it's probably, yeah, we need to do top word.to lowercase. But let's not do that every single time. Let's just do lowercase word equals word.to lowercase, then lowercase word. Then we don't have to worry about casing issues. So Astro should work now. And it looks like all over the place, we're relying on the fact that it's lowercase. So I think this, when we pass in the key, we should just transform it into lowercase always. Because we are relying, all of this logic is relying on it being lowercase. Do I work on React? I do not work on the React library. I use React though. Yes. I'm not sure if you mean, do I work on React? I don't actually work on the open source project React. I use React though. Yeah, I do work with React. Sorry, I wanted to make sure that I understood your question, but yeah, I do use React, but I'm just doing vanilla JavaScript because it's fun. Why not, right? And I'm sure all these other tutorials probably used frameworks, and this isn't really a tutorial, but you know what I mean. So we're basically done. I just want to make sure that we're case insensitive here. So, and if I'm going to, okay, so there's two places where we're going to want to pass in here. Key.to lowercase here, we'll pass it in there, and we'll also do it here. So that we're always calling key down event with the lowercase version. Which means that I don't need to call to lowercase throughout the entire app anymore in these random places. Shouldn't need to do it here either. Whoops. No, I do need to do it there because, okay. Just make sure, okay, that should work. So ASTRO submit, and it's not quite working. So again, we'll console.log current word. Save ASTRO, enter. We're not even, oh, you know what? Because we're calling, we should be doing this and this now. There we go. See what happens. ASTRO, enter. Didn't quite do it. Think about this. To lowercase. Let's log it just straight up. The key we're pressing. A, that's lowercase. STRO. These are all lowercase. Oops. Backspace works. ASTRO. If I clear and then enter. Enter's lowercase because we're calling to lowercase. What am I? This is called burning out in the middle of a live stream. Backspace. And then enter. So we need to be checking the lowercase version, not the uppercase version, which is kind of funny that I was doing that. So we should be, whoa, should be good to go. Save, refresh, ASTRO, enter. There we go. Now let's try again. APPLE, enter, and then we win the game. Okay, so almost done, almost done. We need to show a modal when there's a victory. Now in the original game, when you lose or win, you get a modal with stats and like these, the ability to share it on social media and stuff. Not going to do that in my case. It just doesn't make sense to do that because this is not actually a production app. It's just a prototype clone. So I think we can do one of two things. We can either just display the word victory at the top, like congratulations, you won. And then if you lose, we can add the message that says you've lost, and then here's the correct word. Those are probably going to be better than trying to implement a modal with just a word in it. That's too much work to just say you won or you lost. It's pointless. So let's do that. So in the case of losing, we are already showing a modal. So I'll actually jump in here, type in fasts 5 times so that I lose, 6 times, So we see the word apple at the top that says, hey, you lost. The correct word was apple. We need to just change this to say, where's the game over function? Where's the, let's string interpolate. You lost. The correct word is Boom. So run through here. You lost. The correct word is apple. Okay, that is good. Now we need to do the same thing with victory. We'll just basically grab the toast div. I guess there's no real reason to do that. All right, so grab the toast div. You won. It should just say you won. You won. Whoops. You won. Exclamation point. And then make the toast visible. So running through here, APPLE, submit, you won. Okay. And now I shouldn't be able to play anymore, right? So the same thing needs to go with game over as well. I shouldn't be able to play anymore. Shouldn't be able to type anything after you lose. Okay, it's still trying to listen. That's what's interesting, is it's still trying to listen after game over. So we could probably just set a global flag at the top that says game over, like game is over. Let game, whoops, game is over equals false. We'll initialize it as false, and then we'll just set it to true whenever there's a victory or a game over. So let game, I'm sorry, game is over equals true. And then we'll do the same thing in the actual game over function. And then when we are checking for the key down events, we will, which is right here, same thing with this. We don't want to call this if, in fact, actually I can just go into the key down event function and just say if game is over, then just return. That way we're not trying to run logic afterwards. So try it one more time. We shouldn't get that error that we were seeing. Yeah, no more errors. That is a fully finished Wordle clone, isn't it? Or am I missing something? So let's just full screen this and look at this, right? So the word is, oh wait, it's not fully finished because we still have to select a random word since right now it's hard coded as apple. But if I say astro and I don't make it long enough and I click enter, we get the shaking, and then we get the modal, the toast that says it's not long enough. If I add a word that doesn't exist, it says not in word list and it shakes. You hit backspace and do astro. That's good. And then we're like, okay, apple, boom, you won. So that is a fully completed Wordle clone, other than the fact that we're not choosing a random word from the list, which I need to do immediately. So if I look at the words list, I can tell that I can tell how many words there are just by looking at how many lines there are in this code. And I'm not going to change this array, so I'm just going to use a number so that I'm not grabbing the length from this array. Although, you know what, actually, it would be better just to get the length from the words array. So I have a word try that I created a try out of the words array. Under this, I could just say words length equals words.length. Now, I don't think that my try class has a length. It doesn't need a length because really that's an inexpensive operation. So words length, we have it here. We need the length to get a random item. Now to get a random item, I'm just going to quickly Google JavaScript random item from array and grab the first one that looks good to me. So when we do chosen word here, I'll replace it with this, and instead of items, it needs to be words dot length. I already have words dot length, but there's really no reason to store that in a variable. So that should give me a random word, which means that now I can probably officially play this game. I'm almost done here. I'm just reorganizing some of this code to make it look a little bit cleaner. There we go. So now I should be able to actually play this game in a legitimate way because now I have no idea what the word is. So if I type in apple, interesting. So loans, is that a word? Loner. Okay. E is in the correct spot. L is not. So, I know that that's not correct. I just wanted to put some random letters in there to see if I could get one. So let's do, we know what's not in there now. So let's do doves. No? Okay. I'm doing really bad. I'm trying to think. What could the word be? if there's anybody in the chat, you can feel free to give me suggestions. I only have 2 more guesses, so. What about... I want to guess something, but I already know that it's kind of hard to guess a word with an E in this spot without there being an S at the end. Maybe an R? Like maybe it's something like this, but I know that, oh, wow. Well, let's just lose and see what the word is. Fillet. You lost. The correct word is fillet. So if I refresh it, we should get a different word, right? So if I try fillet, now it's a completely different word. Lost is not a word. Of course it's not. So we have a fully, whoa, go back. Go back. We have a fully functioning Wordle clone in vanilla JavaScript that was coded completely live with absolutely zero knowledge of how to code it beforehand. I think I'm done, but there is I could try to do the animation thing where it flips in the actual Wordle game. If you type in a word and click enter, it flips these things, but I wonder, so you can't type anything while that's happening. So it's also probably, there's probably a global state variable that says like in sequence equals true. And if in sequence is true, then we're not going to allow you to type anything. And then we're doing a 1-by-1 animation. So that mechanism in its own is probably would probably take like an hour on its own, if that, maybe 45 minutes. So I don't want to do that at the very end of this. I think we have a pretty good clone here. So, oh, yeah, I think this will suffice. I'm pretty satisfied with it. So let me just do one small thing where I basically hop over to the chat and say, peace out. If I can quickly do that. All right. Thanks, everyone. That was fun.